Hello and welcome back to the Planning Perspective podcast. I'm Jamie Hopkins, one of the two co-hosts for today, joined by Kate Duffy, my other co-host. Kate, great to see you. I hope you're as excited as I am about today because I love this topic.
Thanks, Jamie. I am very excited to have Jackie on today. So I'm looking forward to what we're going to dive into.
Yeah, so we have Jackie Reeves, who leads our retirement plan services here at Bryn Mawr Trust and WSFS. So we're super excited, Jackie, for you to be on. It's going to be a great conversation. And I think we were talking before, right? Retirement plans can feel overwhelming sometimes.
They can feel overwhelming.
Very overwhelming.
Because there could be a lot of decision points. And I think sometimes it's more of what you don't know that can make it feel uncertain or a little bit risky. But at a high level, you can actually help yourself through these decision points if you standardize, automate, and more importantly, outsource some of this to a trusted partner.
Absolutely. Outsourcing to a trusted partner, to a group of individuals and companies can help you simplify the process because it can appear overwhelming from the outside. Also, just walking through with a professional, almost a decision tree. If I'm going to think this way or my company is organized in this fashion, then these are the questions that we can walk you through to get the best plan for you and your employees.
Yeah, and I think we'll cover a bit of that, right? What are the decision tree for a business owner? Some of the misconceptions that are still out there because these pop up, the rules continue to change, offerings, technology evolve. I think a little bit of, what's the right setup as we talk about often retirement plans or 401k and people think of one thing that they might have had experience with.
Right.
But there's hundreds of flavors of even vanilla.
There are.
Yeah.
Yes. Oftentimes, a company that has 10 employees or less or 20 employees or less, and they're sitting side by side with 5 other companies. And to your point, Jamie, they have decidedly different plan structures because they organized it according to their company culture, what they thought was important for their employee base. So you're right. There are many, many flavors of vanilla.
Yeah. Well, let's hop right into it then and kick things off. When business owners show up to your door and they're coming in, what are they typically coming with? What's bringing them to the table? Why are they showing up to talk to you?
Sure. The majority of the reason they're showing up to our door is because they want a third party perspective. They've had a plan for 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, and they really don't have the transparency of who's on first, second, third, what are they doing, what am I paying them, and also is it engaging with the employees? So the third party perspective and our team can execute the complete due diligence with them and make sure they know at the end of the day what's happening within their plan and any changes that they might want to make.
And there's a lot of questions that come up, and we hear sometimes, and you touch on this a little bit, that we're too small. Like we're too small to even have a plan.
Right.
Is there any truth to that at all?
So there is a plan, solo case, all the way up to thousands of people. So the answer is no, there's not too small of a company to have a plan. And again, going back to the decision tree, it really depends on how much you want to put away every year. So that really starts to define the type of plan that your company may want to consider.
And I think jumping off a bit of it's too small, really the underlying question is, does this cost too much for us? And I think that's the follow-up sometimes we hear is, oh, we're too small. Oh, it's also just too expensive, or we don't really know how much it costs. We're not ready for that. So what are they usually talking about, or in their minds, business owners maybe getting wrong or thinking about when they're bringing up this idea of cost?
Sure. Many years ago, the cost for a 401k plan, a 403b, was nearly prohibitive. But over the last 10 years, especially, the cost has come down so much, predominantly because of the transparency that companies like us are bringing to the table. How many times is a record keeper or a third-party administrator going to proactively lower their fees unless you ask them to really sharpen the pencil? So to the point of cost, it has come down dramatically over the last 10 years. So the rough barometer, anybody can really take a look at them. The larger cost is really, what do I want to match my employees? So on average, it's a few $100s a month per participant fee. But the bigger one is how much do I want to match my employee, and do I want to consider a profit sharing plan as well? So that's where it becomes, but that's flexible.
Right. That's one of the
It's
levers that you can
right.
pull.
You can. So it can be discretionary. If it works one year, fabulous. If it doesn't the next, that's okay. So you can really be in control of that cost base.
And this is where sometimes we see business owners who may have looked into this in the past. You kind of sit in that default mindset. I've already looked at it. It's too expensive. We can't afford it.
Mhm.
But there have been a lot of changes and evolution
Right.
in retirement plans.
And they should revisit it because sometimes they're in an old structure and
Mhm.
they haven't really fast forwarded through the regulatory changes like you
Mhm.
mentioned, Jamie. So there are a lot of new bells and whistles that are out there that they might want to consider.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Yeah, we had the Pension Protection Act, which goes back about 20 years now, but that opened up the door for really modernization of our retirement plans.
Right.
And then we had some regulations post that. Then Tax Cut and Job Act, Secure Act, and Secure Act 2.0 all brought different tax incentives to the retirement plan world to essentially bring down the costs all in all.
Absolutely.
And I think technology was another big driver that you can
Mhm.
do this on scale. You can also do it for one shop at a
Right.
very effective cost that you couldn't do 20, 30 years ago when it was
Absolutely.
faxes and
Mhm.
Right.
yeah.
And more is coming, right? Artificial intelligence. I think we're going to see companies become more and more efficient.
Mhm.
So it could drive further efficiencies to the business owner.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Jackie, we also hear a lot that, maybe I do a great job with my employee benefits. We pay them well. They're not really concerned about having retirement plan benefits here. Do you really think that's the case? Or is it just they don't know what they don't know? People aren't bringing it up because they don't want to,
Sure.
sound rude or something like that?
I'm hearing more and more that the employees do want it. Not only that, but best practices, automatic enrollment, automatic escalation. Oftentimes, the studies are really showing that they trust the employer. And if they're automatically enrolling at 1% or 3%, they trust that that's the decision tree that will take them to a successful
Yeah.
retirement.
Mhm.
And then also the competition. Since, COVID, there's been a tremendous amount of competition to improve the benefits, more safe harbor type plans with, kind of guaranteed matching from the employer. So I'm hearing more and more that the employees do want it and that the employers really think it's a benefit to help attract and
Mhm.
also retain talent. It's almost a benchmark that they need to have
Mhm.
in order to remain competitive.
Yeah, so there are some studies out there that talk about like who wants retirement benefits, and almost 8 or 9 people out of 10 that are looking for jobs.
Hmm.
It's like table stakes.
It
And we've
is.
got 36 million small businesses in the US, and only about half of them have access to retirement plans. So there is a disconnect there. And I think that shows up in hiring and retention.
It does. The disconnect, I mean, it can help keep people employed. It can add to the bottom line, right? People are happier to be there. They're enjoying the benefits, they're enjoying their colleagues, and they help the profitability of the firm over
Mhm.
time.
Jackie, I totally agree. I think today it's really table stakes for larger employers, but when you get to smaller employers, the owner might do a little bit of everything, and so not only in their mind is it a cost potentially, but there's also work involved. So they
Hmm.
think of it as just endless paperwork and
Right.
investment decisions and right regulatory
Sure.
challenges. And do they really want to get into this? And is that really the picture
Hmm.
anymore if you're a business owner? And then how do you go about maybe minimizing all that extra work as a small business owner who wants to deliver something to their employees?
Sure. Great question. Because you're right. Years ago, there weren't a lot of partners that could help the small business owner accomplish this benefit with minimal risk, minimal lift as well, and time on the business owner side. So now, yes, you can hit the easy button. There are multiple employer plan structures where you can literally outsource nearly 95% of the work and have that benefit up and running for your employees, I'll say within 90 days, sometimes even quicker. And the cost because they've come down so much. But you're right. Before this, there's like 90 items, right, that come
Mhm.
with this
Mhm.
amazing benefit and a lot of responsibility. So there are a lot more providers at a reasonable cost
Right.
that can come into the picture and help the business owner, large or small, accomplish those and shoulder a lot of that fiduciary responsibility.
So, for some business owners who've been thinking about this over time, what is usually like the tipping point? What is the experience that they've had, or what is that urgency that
Hmm.
actually gets them over that final hurdle to
Sure.
implement a startup retirement
Hmm.
plan?
So on the startup side, sometimes to maybe to Jamie's point where they're just doing so much, but perhaps it has been the feedback of its table stakes now. Like, hey, it's between you and another, I'll say
Hmm.
smaller startup type of company. They have this benefit and you don't. And all of a sudden they're like, okay, now I cannot afford not to have it.
Hmm.
And so they need to step up and lean in and figure it out. And thankfully it's easier.
So, what are some of the first steps that you would recommend a business owner go through, right? Like,
Hmm.
just very plainly, what should they, if they're thinking about this, are there two or three things they should do kind of immediately to start
Hmm.
progressing towards getting a plan in place?
Sure. And we can walk them through the questions, but the top of the list is, do I, as the owner, want to contribute to the plan? Do I have some senior people as well on my team that also really want to contribute to the plan? Because that starts to define what type of plan you want to have. Our team can also help you ferret out who are some of the providers that are the best in
Hmm.
class, especially for startup plans. Many companies will not work with startup plans or, they'll just price themselves out of the market, if you will. So then you can navigate through those decisions, automatic enrollment, automatic escalation, vesting schedules. So those types of strategies, what's the company culture? How can we make sure this is an integral part of the compensation package for all the employees? So those are some of the initial items that can get you to the right place.
So, let's shift a little bit to plans that are companies that have existing
Hmm.
plans. Talk to us about working with those clients and the ones that maybe haven't revisited their plans. They kind of go through this initial implementation of the
Right.
plan and then they land and set it and forget it.
They do. They do. So that is one of the dominant, I'll say participants that are coming to the table right now. The business owners that have had a plan for 10, 20 years. And thankfully, they're saying, you know what? With all these new rules and regs, you mentioned the Secure 2.0, I need to dust this off. And we're coming to them and just walking them through. You're right. The investment lineup can be elevated. Also, there's a vesting schedule that you might want to entertain. Have you used the profit sharing plan? So we walk them through that analysis. And I have to say, it is the minority of the business owners, especially in some of these larger plan structures, that know every single detail. Because to your point, they're
Hmm.
engaged in their day-to-day
Hmm.
business and they don't know all the specific nuances of the plan strategy. So we can help dissect, figure out if that plan that you set and forget 10 years ago or so is still the best plan for your future 10 years. Or are there some new items that have come into play that we can really implement for you and your employees?
And so, what's a clear sign if you're a business owner or as a professional looking at something that a plan that was set up at some time is no longer working as you wanted it to like as it should be working?
Sure. There are some noticeable, I'll call them red flags that happen. Corrective distributions. If some
Yeah.
of your top employees are getting money back, right?
Yeah.
That usually is not a happy experience, I'll say, in the first quarter. The other items are payroll. Is it really connected with the plan? Because sometimes there's a disruption. You might change payrolls at companies, and all of a sudden it's really not happening as well as it should. The other item is there are you haven't experienced an investment plan change in 5 years. I mean, how much has happened in the
Hmm.
environment in 5 years? If every portfolio manager is still at the top of their game, really what's happening there? So those are some of the key items, the corrective distributions, and of course, filing your 5,500 on time, but
Yeah.
Hmm.
it's usually the correctives.
And you
Mhm.
mentioned about the investment portfolio in there, which I think is a really interesting topic because I was just reading how more and more Americans are leaving their money in their 401k now
Mhm.
than rolling over to
Right.
IRAs, which a decade ago was a foregone conclusion that you're going to get better pricing and cheaper and all these things.
Right.
There was even a White House white paper write up, probably about 15 years ago now that said, oh, that's why IRAs are better, it's cheaper, get it
Right.
over there. And we've almost seen a move the opposite way now where people are saying, I get pretty good professional money management,
Right.
fiduciary oversight in my 401k. The costs have come down a lot for the share classes and investments
Right.
inside of it. The people aren't looking to leave that, investment portfolio as much as they used to be. So, is that something also that companies should be on the watch out for as their company grows? Because I think, right, they should probably be reviewing the investment options, the costs. As you get a bigger plan, you have more
Right.
kind of purchasing power
You do.
levers.
You do. Absolutely. More and more plan participants are continuing to leave their money in there because the pricing should be better. And to your point, because you have massive amounts of assets in these plans, you should, as the owners, be reviewing the pricing. And sometimes they just don't get to it.
Yeah.
Right. So you want another partner to make sure that every year, every other year, you're benchmarking that plan, the number of participants, the assets as they grow, because you can definitely push the envelope on getting better pricing. The other item, too, that has driven some of that momentum for assets staying in the plan, more of the companies that oversee the plans are giving the plan participants options, right? So sometimes it was one lump sum, or you kind of have the RMD and that was it. And now those companies have really expanded the offering where they can send it out monthly and they can really work with the plan participant to keep it in the plan.
And on the investment front too, depending on your population of employees, like some people want it to be all hands off and they don't want to make the decisions, but some
Right.
people want options. They want to be able to build their investment portfolio themselves. So that's something else I think that's important as you're thinking about
Right.
aligning the plan with the business and the culture
Absolutely.
and what
Yes.
employees actually want.
So the other item too is some companies and the plan participants want the target date fund, the real easy button, my age, when I'm going to hit 65, 70, and others want the custom design. So there are organizations that we partner with as well that want the self-directed brokerage account. So in addition to having, the majority of the plan assets be on the set it and revisit, I'll say,
Yeah,
never set it and forget it. Most plans, especially the senior executives, are saying, hey, we'd really like to have an option of a self-directed brokerage to get extremely customized. So that's also an option in many of the plan design features.
Okay. Well, talk to us a little bit about pooled plans and what we need to know about them.
Sure. So the pooled plans was a topic that came out of the Secure 2.0. Not that it was a new topic, but it was redefined in a way that a lot of large plans. So if you have a plan that's in audit territory, you can join a pooled employer plan and share the audit cost, or in some cases, not have it at all because it's being absorbed within the infrastructure. In addition to that, you're also outsourcing the entire lineup. So that is going to be managed by a fiduciary. And then there's a named fiduciary over the whole plan that's signing the 5,500, executing the loan request, looking at all the distributions and making sure everything is buttoned up. So it's a great option, especially for the larger plans that are comfortable with not having everything customized to themselves.
So instead of the set it and forget it, as you said, it's the set it and review it. What are you seeing as issues when people aren't reviewing these plans for 5 to 10 years? What's creeping up? What are they losing sight of? I mean, I think the rules would probably suggest and require that you should be looking at this consistently as a fiduciary, but we just know that life happens.
Right.
And if there's nothing totally breaking down, it
Mhm.
kind of moves forward. People are saving their money, it's
Right.
investing, the market's growing,
Sure.
everybody's kind of happy. But what are we missing when we're not reviewing plans for 5 to 10 years?
Sure. One of the big ones that we see without the review of 5 to 10 years, the investment lineup has share classes. And so as a plan grows, you're eligible for a lower share class. So that is the biggest item that we see that gets missed when you don't review it every 3 to 5 years or so. And it's substantial,
So it's a
much
lower
lower
cost share class.
cost.
Okay.
Thank you.
Mhm.
And that can bring 100 basis points back into the plan and for the plan participants. So more money stays in the plan participants' pockets, in the employer's pockets. So that's number one. The other item is many times the company responsibility of the 401k plan is passed on to different positions as new people enter the
Right.
company. And what's passed on to that next person is a standard operating procedure, but it might not be what's in the plan documents. So there's a disconnect with what every company and every person is saying, well, that's how they said I should do it. And so you want to go back and make sure that the current documents reflect your standard operating procedures, which is a big deal because if it doesn't match, it could be a little bit of a
Yeah.
problem. Mhm.
So what about for those companies who have well-functioning plans? Are there other opportunities that you highlight for them that they might be
Sure.
missing?
Yes. So often you have your 401k plan, you're maybe executing a match, all the senior team is contributing as much as they possibly can. Often companies are also executing their profit share plan. So between the two of those plans for the, I'll say the upper end of contributions, you can hit 69 to $70,000 a year. So that's with the profit share, which is often discretionary. And then some companies have additional cash flow and additional means to set aside for us, I'll just say a discretionary bunch of people.
Mhm.
And so you can also add on a cash balance plan. And so a commitment of say 3 to 5 years for that, but that means you can orchestrate another 150,000 per person in a very tax efficient manner for a discretionary portion of your pool. So you have the 401k, you can stack on the profit share, you can look at a cash balance plan. So there are many different modules
Mhm.
that can be orchestrated either separately or as a group.
So there are
Mhm.
3 or 4 other features I wanted to bring up and ask you about, if
Mhm.
that's okay. Because as we talked about these things developing, I think employees hear about it and request it more often. So one of them is the Roth functionality,
Mhm.
which, for a while was larger employers, some
Right.
smaller employers didn't have it. But are we starting to see that pretty much across the board at this point, that
Mhm.
there's at least Roth capabilities, whether or not everyone's using it?
Yes. Great question. This year, 2026, Roth was, I'll say mandated with some air quotes because it's absolutely mandated by 2027. When we rolled this out for some employers that had not, and I'll say they wanted to, but sometimes the technology lags a
Mhm.
little, so they were able to launch it into 2026. The employees were ecstatic.
Mhm.
They drove and jumped into the Roth with both feet. So it was really exciting to see, to the point where they thought that we were launching a whole other plan.
Yeah.
So they were really excited. And the benefits, especially for those that are newer to the workforce and midstream into their career, is painfully obvious. So it's really exciting that there was so much excitement with the feature being added, because you're right. Before that, it was kind of there. Maybe it was used occasionally. And now, if you're 50 or older, it must,
Mhm.
and you're in a
Mhm.
certain highly comped category, you must have it as a Roth contribution for catch up. But I'm definitely seeing it with 20 somethings, 30 somethings, 40s gravitating in force to the
Mhm.
Roth.
Yeah, we have a whole podcast
Yeah.
episode of the
Okay.
We do.
planning
Hmm.
perspectives around Ross. So check that out if you want to know a little bit of the benefits there. The other two
Yeah.
features I like to ask about, because this one's definitely developing, the student loan kind of matching
Hmm.
atmosphere out there. And so
Sure.
where is that today? I
Hmm.
mean, we saw a bunch of articles and
Right.
talk about it, but then as I was kind of going around, you were seeing maybe
Hmm.
not as many of employers doing it.
Exactly.
Then like
Right.
the news is
Yeah.
saying, "Hey, you can go do
You
this,"
can
and
do
then
this.
employers like,
They're like,
"No, you can't."
well, maybe.
Yeah.
We're not seeing it as robustly. There are certain, I'll say, organizations
Mhm.
that are gravitating towards the student loan feature, and they want to get it as soon as possible. But it's more the minority. of plans that are asking for that feature. And then frankly, again, we're backing into which technology, which providers can actually execute that. And I'll say flawlessly and efficiently. So they're doing their best, Jamie, but it's still not robustly embraced.
Yeah.
hmm
And then one last one from me, and then I'll shift it back over to Kate here, maybe for some rapid fire questions, which we're kind of doing the whole time, right? But the other one that I think got a lot of attention, and this was purposeful, was what I'll call like in-plan access,
hmm
right? So not just having to wait to your 59 and a half or,
hmm
some other age-based distribution period, but we opened up the ability to get loans against the plans, which
Right.
I think for a long time was really viewed negatively. Like I
hmm
felt like it was even taught negatively in like the
Sure.
CFP curriculum. And then when I started to study it, I was like, it's actually like a pretty good feature because you
hmm
borrow from yourself instead
Right.
of borrowing and paying interest to someone else. You just pay it back into your plan.
Right.
Now, there's a lot of caveats to that, but
Of
then
course.
we added some other early distribution mechanisms for, different events. I think natural disasters was added.
Hardships. Right.
Yeah, financial
hmm
hardships. So, what are you seeing there? Is that
hmm
been kind of a net positive, or because I think we hear some noise that maybe there's a lot of
Yeah.
like leakage of plan assets at the same
Yes.
time,
Yes.
and it's a terrible sounding word, and it's a
It
bad
is.
event. So it's yeah.
Yeah.
What's your view on that side of things?
Sure. So best practice is say a one loan at a time. But as we reviewed some plans that are 10, 20 years old, some of them allowed five or
Mm,
more, right? So then you're stacking
Mm.
these
Mhm.
loans on
yeah.
top of one another, right? So that's not the best practice. But we are seeing more and more companies go to the one loan. Some are even deciding, should I allow loans? They'll allow the hardships, of
Hmm.
course, because they're looking at their perspective and their seat as the responsible
Right.
party, I'll just say, around this table. And what other best practices can we have so that we really set up our employees for future success,
Mhm.
and maybe restricting it a little bit, so that they have to think once or twice or three times before they actually really want to access those funds. Because yes, you can pay yourself back, certainly with the interest. It's time out of the market, and we always
Mhm.
preach about time in the market.
Hmm.
So it takes away from that component, but it is their money. We
Mhm.
want to allow them to have access to it. And then kind of that brings me back to almost our future selves, right? We have a hard time
Mhm.
taking care of our future selves. So I think looking at either the hardship distribution or some of the loans, and maybe just allowing people to think about that a little bit more, helps them remember that their future selves will really thank them
Yeah.
if they maybe make a different decision.
That's a very good point. Well, thank you for all that you've shared,
Thank
Jackie.
you.
We're going to move into some rapid fire questions here. So, short answers, the first
hmm
thing that comes to mind.
Okay.
As a business owner, when they say, "Can I afford to do this?" What do you think?
Yes. Yes, you can.
Okay.
The second one, is it really beneficial to me as the owner of the company?
It is extremely beneficial to you as the owner of the company, as long as you really want to participate.
Hmm, great point.
What happens if employees don't participate?
So then it could become a corrective distribution. It could become a top heavy type of a plan. And so we want to make sure plan design
Mm-hmm.
is best for everyone.
What's the biggest missed opportunity in the retirement plan space for business owners?
hmm So I think they delay implementing a strategy.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's that lost time in the market. We all have seen those charts.
Mm-hmm.
So more time in the market. So I think it's not making the decision or delaying the decision because all of a sudden 12 months goes by,
Right.
24 months.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So, one myth about all of this that you would retire.
hmm One myth about all of this.
All of
Oh, that I
retirement
would set
that you would.
aside.
Yep.
Okay. Um, I would set aside that it's too expensive
Okay.
to implement.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Well, I'm glad we didn't set aside that the Jersey Devil's not real because I like that myth. It's a good local legend, and we got to keep it alive. So I know it has a lot to do with what we were talking about. just came to mind. I was thinking about myths and different things, so I went with the Jersey Devil. It's you made
Nice.
it's a sports, it's a second sports kind of analogy then too. So we
Right.
got a first,
few
second,
in
and
there.
third base, and
Right.
Good.
Jersey
Yes.
Devil. So
Nice work.
that's
Exactly.
good. Yeah.
I don't have any sports analogies to bring to the table today.
That's all right. Jackie, thank you so much for everything you do for all our clients out there, for the business owners in the area with Wisvis and Bryn Mawr Trust, and helping get themselves set up with the right types of plans, reviewing it, bringing that expertise to the table around investments and costs and the right plan structure. I just know it's so important because the future of our retirement security in this country is really based on employer plans today is a big portion of it. So if we don't do that right, we're not setting the people that we're supposed to be taking care of as business leaders up for success.
I couldn't agree more. The business owners, the employers play a large role in setting the table of what the expectations should be today as well as 5 years from now.
We're just at the close. I don't know.
Just it.
We're at the close.
We're at the close. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, for business owners who are listening, retirement plans often represent a meaningful portion of overall wealth. If it's been set and forget it, a thoughtful review can make a very big difference.
Huge difference. Yes. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for asking me.
Well, Kate and Jackie, it's so fun having you both here with me today. And everyone else, thanks for listening to this episode of the Playing Perspectives podcast. Make sure you subscribe on your favorite podcast channel so you never miss an episode.
Thank you for listening to the Planning Perspectives podcast. Don't forget to click the follow button to be notified when new episodes are available. Visit our website at www.bmt.com or call us at 833-973-7633. The opinions voiced in this podcast are for general information only and are not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any individual. To determine which strategies or investments may be suitable for you, consult the appropriate qualified professional prior to making a decision. Investments, not a deposit, not FDIC insured, not insured by any federal government agency, not guaranteed by the bank, may go down in value.